Welcome to the second round of Grand Chess Tour Super Bad Chess Classic Romania 2025. In the second round I want to show you a game played between Maxim vachier-lagrave, who lost in the first round to Alireza Firouzja, and Wesley So, who actually won the first game, which he was playing against Bogdan Daniel Deck. Daniel Deck, by the way, won his game against... I'm trying to think. He won against Livon Aronian. And in round number 2, let me just show you what happened between these two guys. So e4 is played, and now Wesley responded with d5. Wesley is known to be a very solid player. He plays very calmly, positional. If you actually look at his chessable course, for example, his lines are generally very equal, and more or less, yes, you have a slight edge, but it's not like a big deal. So Maxim goes knight f3, knight c6, and bishop b5 on the board. a6, bishop a4, knight f6. Knight is attacking e4, castle, knight e4, and now d4. So there's also rook e1, but d4 is kind of main line. So generally, what I think how the theory goes here is just d5, and I believe not bishop c5, of course, but bishop e6, and then I'm not sure, c3, bishop e3. Simple development. People play it not as often, but it's quite solid. Bishop e7, rook e1, attacking the knight on e4. Now pawn goes to b5, and now rook takes e4. So after bishop b3, d5 would have been played, and we would transpose to kind of main line, but I believe black got bishop e7 on the board. So more or less it's a good position for black. Like, they have no problems, and I think it's a dream position for move number 9. So rook e4 was played instead, and now d5, attacking the rook on e4. Knight e5. The idea is that, let's say, d takes e4, knight c6, let's say queen d7, there is knight e7, and if b takes a4, knight c8, you have two pieces for the rook. It's a completely winning position for white pieces. So knight e5, rook e5, and now b takes a4. And as you might actually see, the structure on an a file is kind of bad. Potentially you might have some problems in the future. Yes, black have two bishops and they have compensation for it, but once again, you gotta be extremely careful. Queen e2, now the idea is that at some point, you know, you wanna actually take on 7 and not let black castle. Move like, let's say, castle still, rook e7, bishop e6, looks like the rook is blocked, but there is rook e6, f takes e6, queen e6. White simply wins the game. f6 was played, rook e3, and now c5. Wesley is trying to create some counterplay, and king goes to f7. So generally this f6 move is very beneficial, because king f7 is a very good move. Why not play it immediately? Because knight c3, and I think black just get a worse version of what he got in the game itself. c5, d takes c5, king f7, and now bishop takes c5 with the tempo, rook d3 attacking the pawn on d5, queen goes to 7, trying to trade it off, bishop f3, d4, bishop d4, queen e2, knight e2, rook e8 attacking the knight, knight goes to c3, takes, and now a3, and look at the time. Wesley knows pretty much everything here, while Maxim probably still knows, but he is probably playing by himself at this moment, while Wesley is still blitzing out moves. B takes a4, bishop f5, attacking the pawn on c2, knight d5, bishop c2, knight c7, rook d8, takes, knight a6, rook e8, and once again, look at the time. Knight b4, bishop f5, a4, rook a4, a3, and now Wesley is down a pawn, but it's an equal position. But once again, down a pawn might still get unpleasant. h5, f3, g5, king f2, and king starts moving forward. Bishop d7, knight d3, bishop c6, h3. As you might see, this potential structure is very bad for white. Like, if black managed to set up some f5 g4, there might be a lot of troubles because this pawn potentially might play a huge role. King goes to e6, rook c1, king d6, knight b2, rook d5 check, king f3, rook e5, king f2, rook b5. And at this point it looked like, you know, players at some point would agree to a draw. Yes, it's more or less equal position, but from this moment on, g5. Now Wesley starts spending time, and at this moment, bishop c6, king d6, rook d5, rook e5, spent 18 minutes. King f2, rook b5, knight c4, king f7, and as you might see, Maxim now has more time than Wesley. King d7, knight f3, f5, knight c4, bishop d5, a4, attacking the rook, rook b4, knight e3, once again attacking the f5, d5 pawn, bishop goes to e6, and now rook a1, making sure this pawn is protected and trying to push it on the next move. Rook b2, king g1, rook e2, rook a3, holding this knight on e3, king c6, a5, king b7, a6, and now rook starts creating threats. Rook c6 is one of the ideas, so king goes to b6, knight c2, rook d2. I think there also could be some ideas, yeah, just knight d4 and rook c6, so it becomes quite important to make right moves here. Like before, it didn't really matter because black generally could make some reasonable moves and be okay, but here you still gotta be very, very precise. Knight b4, bishop d7, rook a3, trying to push a7, king a7, rook e3, rook d1, king h2, and now g4, which is not very, very good for black, as they basically weaken h4 square, h4 pawn, which will be taken during the game. g4 takes, and now rook e4, and finally h4 pawn is taken. Rook f4, rook f6, rook f8, king b6. So the idea is that after king b4 there is a7, bishop e7, rook b8, and now it's a pin. If rook c7, rook b7, rook b7, a8, it is a win for white. What was played? King b6, rook f4, rook c5, now rook g4, rook g5. By the way, as you might see, the evil bar is going down because the position is again equal. Rook g8, rook e4, king b5, king h4, rook h8, king g5, but the time played its huge role. Rook g8 was a losing move. King b6 would have held it, but look, at this point it's really hard to come up with, let's say, king b6 and rook g8. But it is what it is. It is a win for white. King f7, rook d8, rook g4 takes the piece, and now it's a lower rook g7, and Wesley simply resigned. After 2 rounds of play, guys, we have Alireza Firouzja as the sole leader of the tournament with 1 win and 1 draw. Fabi with 1 point, Wesley, Maxim with 1 point, Jan Krzysztof Duda, Bogdan Tek, Nadir Bek, Prag, Kukesh, and Livon. You don't see the last 3, but you see the top 7. So yeah, pretty good tournament, some very nice games. Hope you guys enjoyed the recap from number 2. I'll see you tomorrow with another recap. Enjoy, have a great weekend. Bye bye.